Good morning, everyone. Who's ready for an AOPA pilot town hall? Yeah, you all having fun at AirVenture? It is a great show, beautiful weather. Well, we love getting together for these pilot town halls. It's our opportunity to talk to our members about the initiatives the AOPA is fighting for and the successes that we've had, and an opportunity for you to ask questions. It's also important for you to hear what we're doing for all of general aviation. So today we are going to hear from some of the leadership of AOPA, of course, President and CEO Mark Baker. We're going to hear from Vice President of Airports and State Advocacy, Mike Ginter, from the Senior Vice President for the Air Safety Institute, Richard McSpadden, and from the Senior Vice President, That's not a bad thing. I love that. All right, but we might have to talk in 20-second snippets. So, and from the Senior Vice President of the AOPA Foundation and You Can Fly, Elizabeth Tennyson. So we're going to hear from them, as I said, and then we are going to have about 15 minutes for questions at the end, and we're going to have two special announcements during this pilot town hall. So let's start with you, Mark. Mark, what is the state of general aviation?
Really good, right? I'll tell you what, it's really booming. You know, we talk about a $250 billion business in their industry with over 1.2 million people. And the reason there's only 1.2 million because we need more people. And everybody that's building airplanes or selling airplanes or fixing airplanes needs more people. So the business is good. Certificate numbers are way up. Student pilot starts are way up. Avgas sales are up, even though they're expensive. Activities measured by towered airports that we work with the FAA to measure are up 30 to 60%, depends on the part of the region, the country, over 2019. And Rich will talk about how safe it's been since that's been going on. So the good news is, in my 45 plus years of flying, it's never been this good. And let's keep it that way. Let's keep it rolling. How about the next slide? So, you know, for 8 years in a row, AOPA has been recognized in DC for the money that you pay for your membership dues and the money you may send to the PAC as one of the top 8 advocacy organizations of all time. And I'm kind of flattered when I get called the NRA of aviation when you're walking around DC, because it means your voices are being heard, your voices count in keeping general aviation alive. And it's an interesting time in GA right now and in the country with all kinds of environmental issues that we want to be supportive of. But, you know, we also want to make sure that we're doing the right things here. And the avgas issue is the elephant in the room. And you've been hearing a lot about it. It's going to be a big fight because we want to do it safely. We want to do it no later than 2030. I hope in the next couple of years we'll have an STC fuel or an PAFI fuel or whatever kind of fuel, and hopefully more than one fuel that is qualified to support 100% of the fleet as a drop-in replacement for 100 low lead that has served us for nearly 100 years. So again, if it was simple, it would have been done a long time ago. But it isn't simple, and most importantly, we're about safety. And safety means that the fuel will go in, it'll be burnt in the regular way without detonation issues, without compatibility issues. And probably the last issue people forget about, this is not going to be a one-day light switch. It has to be a fungible fuel, which means it can be used in combinations with low lead or other fuels that exist for the fleet as we go forward. So it's complicated, but I'm here to tell you that I personally work on this 6 or 7 days a week in terms of coordinating things with the FAA, potential solutions, and working with the manufacturers to try to find a way to go forward. I do really believe, the solution's not too far away.
Yeah, well, in 1 second, so I forgot to announce myself. I'm Colin Stagnito, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Media and Marketing. And the reason I interrupt politely just for 1 second is many of you have asked a lot of questions about unleaded fuel and what the progress is. And many assume that we're just about there, right, that it's very close, but it is such a complicated process. So we'll continue to report out to you in all of our media channels, the publications and social media and online and newsletters. We want it to happen as quickly as you do.
Yeah, in the meantime, it's also important to just kind of reflect a little bit about things that the AOPA has done with your support. You know, you've heard about the basic med. You know, for my now 9th year here as the CEO, we don't have to talk about that too much anymore. But what a big win to have 70,000 of you flying under basic med. Give you a round of applause because you're doing it safely first. Everybody flying under basic med.
Yeah.
Round of applause. You know, we have some other things that we're working with, which is the National Center for the Advancement of Aviation, which pulls all these great groups together to make sure in Washington that we're represented, all the education programs that Liz will talk about a little bit later, but making sure whatever's going on at EAA and GAMA and others that are doing things to support new people coming into aviation are a coordinated effort, and we're leading the effort to pull that legislation together. You know, we won 2 years ago, but in typical FAA speed on the special use airspace, we want to be able to have it turn on and off like we think about a TFR. So if they're not using the MOA or if they're not using the restricted area, it would become a green or something of that nature to show you could navigate through there without making any calls. And it's been going in a typical FAA fashion, a little slower than we hope, but it will be a big darn deal to be able to navigate through the special use airspace, which is about 30% of our airspace in our country today. And finally, we're working on that FAA directive we were really disappointed with last year at this time, which is the LOTA, Letter of Authorized Deviation Authority for any experimental type aircraft. The FAA went through and they even admitted it was a paper chase, but they still enforce it at a level that makes no sense. So we're going to get some legislation done to get rid of that darn thing. It makes no sense. It gets in the way of safety, in my opinion. And then finally, from an advocacy side, you know, for those who are lucky enough to travel to the Bahamas, they instituted a new click-to-clear program without really engaging AOPA, who has the Caribbean and Bahama guide. And we were in a pretty difficult place where we said we can't support the idea of pilots going there until they know how to use this new customs system, which may make sense for cargo carriers and others, but did not make sense for private pilots. To the credit of AOPA, they listened to us, they backed off. We're going to work together over the next number of months to find a way to get a system that is better, maybe faster, but that everybody knows how to use and is simple. So, you know, your team here in DC and around the country is doing the right things here to grow aviation, be part of it, and we got some big saves here. Now, you want to move on?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, very frequently, we meet in the Frederick, Maryland office at AOPA just to talk about the different initiatives and what's the status. And every time Mike Ginter gives an update, there are like 100 or more airport issues that you're tracking. And so there are concerns, but there are also a lot of successes. And we'd love to hear about some of those. And also, there's a big announcement on transparency at FBOs you'd like to make.
Thanks, Colin. So Mike Ginter, I'm here with the DC team. We have 10 employees down in our DC office. There's no ramps or runways or hangars we can look out the windows, and I hate that. I wish I was in Frederick. But we love the fight for members. All of us are pilots in the staff down there, and I run the airports and state advocacy side. And I'm quite proud to talk about some of the stuff that our 7 regional managers and airport staff are doing to help win some battles. The big one this year was Midland Air Park, and our ASN, Vicki Hurt, was leading that charge to save that airport. It was really helping to convince the local elected leaders that it was worth saving. And she did that. She rallied the pilots together with some help from us. And it was definitely a grassroots effort. And that's an example of what can happen when you get many voices and one message, and you take a good, solid, rational argument and talk about the benefits of the economic impact of GA and the jobs that are created and the public benefit flying that happens. There's a universal message of what we do every day. And that's not known to the elected leaders that own these airports, city councils, county commissions. So that was a victory this year. We have probably 113 airport issues we're working today. We've already resolved about 105 year to date. So it's a very busy time for our team. And of course, you've probably all heard about some of the big fights we're fighting. We're still very much engaged with trying to save Reed Hillview in Santa Clara County, San Jose. The county commission, the owners of the airport, are trying to close that airport. They've already voted to stop taking grants so they can close it in 2031. And then they discovered that they might be able to make some political hay with a lead issue. And none of us are defending lead. You've all heard about the lead position of the general aviation community. We're going to get the lead out, and it's going to be a victory for everybody. But that county is using that as a hook to try to close the airport early. And we're fighting it all the way up to the Secretary of Transportation. I know that AOPA and all the other aviation associations have some very strongly worded pressure on the Secretary of Transportation, and we're waiting to see what they do. We don't want to let them discontinue selling 100 low lead, which is what they've done now. And we're worried about that domino falling and knocking over other dominoes. We're trying to stop it. So, and then once we fix the lead issue at Reedale View and keep the 100 low lead flowing, then we're going to switch back to our original fight, which is to try to keep the airport open. It's a great GA airport. It's a reliever airport for San Jose International. It's one of our big fights. It's going to be going on for another 9 years. Same with Whiteman Airport. That's a new fight. Just started a couple years ago. Tragically, a 182, Civil Air Patrol 182 crashed in the neighborhood, killing the pilot, and nobody else was hurt. It was a tragedy, of course, for that pilot and his family. And of course, there was a big outcry from the community. Again, they want to close the airport for other reasons, but they're using safety as the reason. So we banded together with the Whiteman's, Friends of Whiteman Field. The message is getting stronger, and we're putting out a pro-airport message to counter their anti-airport message. I wish we had a simple red button to push, but we don't. We get a long fight going, we get a strategy going, and that's how we do every one of the airport issues we work with. And of course, you're all familiar with East Hampton out in Long Island. We're helping with that airport as much as we can. It's now embroiled in some legal battles, but it's still open today, which is still a victory. I'm very happy to say that after 5 years of trying to fight the egregious fees and pricing of the big FBOs, the big chain FBOs, which represents about 10% of all FBOs, it's not the majority, but we shifted our gears about 4 years ago and started pushing for fee transparency. Everyone here knows you can look on the internet for a hotel, a car, dinner prices on a menu online. Everything is transparent online, everything, except for the parking fees at Signature, Atlantic, Millionaire, Shelter, the big chains. They're not transparent. And if you go to one of those airports and you didn't check ahead of time or call them, you're going to get hit with a pretty big parking bill for 1 hour or overnight. And if you want to waive that fee, you can buy their gas. It's probably $9.50 or $10. I know some of us have seen $10 gas prices. So our strategy was to make that transparent, and I'm very happy to say after really 4 years of working with the big FBOs and a year steadily with Signature, last Thursday, every one of their ramp fees are now instantly available to all pilots on the AOPA directory.
Yeah.
And that's a huge win, and we're very proud of that. So we're going to take that fight now to Atlantic, Millionaires, Shelter, and all the rest of the big 18 chains that we're working. But you can start seeing more and more pricing on the directory, which goes into ForeFlight, Garmin, Boeing, Jet. It goes into your cockpit if you take a EFB with you. So that's a big win. Next slide, please. So our team is also working on lobbying at the state level. I'm happy to say that in Alabama, we passed an economic infrastructure bill, which helps. We supported that. That wasn't ours purely. In Iowa, we led the charge to get rid of the 6% parts and labor tax. That took us 4 years, and it wasn't until a pilot friend of mine got elected to the State House and was our boots on the ground lobbyist as a sitting member of the State House, and we passed it 92-6, and the governor signed it, and it's a beautiful thing. So now every state in that area has exempted the maintenance tax. That's a big savings to you. We've eliminated the sunset on a Virginia tax for maintenance that was already exempted. It was going to self-expire. We got that made permanent. And we're working those kinds of issues all over the country. So we're the ones that are lobbying at the state level. We work very closely with the state directors or the state associations, and it's a fun job.
Yeah. And before I joined AOPA, I've been a member for 30 years. Before I joined as an employee, I always thought of AOPA more on the Washington, D.C. advocacy level, the federal level. And but you have regional managers throughout the country who are visiting these airports all the time and listening to those concerns.
And they are registered lobbyists when they have to be.
There you go.
The last thing I'll say is it's very proud of this. The Airport Support Network has been around for 25 years. AOPA started in 1997, and it's been a critical part of our airport advocacy and all the airport wins we've had. There are volunteers now at 2,025 airports, and I just want to recognize, if you're a volunteer, raise your hand. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Just point out Keith Sirks here. He's one of our ASN Board of Advisor members from the Northwest Mountain region. You all know if you're a volunteer, we're having a happy hour here in the 3-9 Lounge at 5 o'clock tonight, so I hope to see you there. But this ASN program has been a critical part of our advocacy. We are growing, and I just want to close with, if you're interested in being the AOPA volunteer at your airport, come see us inside the tent. We'll find out if there isn't one there, and we will send you the nomination form. We'd love to have you on the team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And also, is there an email address that they could email if they're interested in this, or there's an online form?
Everything's online, aopa.org/ASN. You can learn about the program, you can nominate yourself there, or you can look and see who the volunteer is. You may have one at your airport. If there's not a volunteer, click the Get Involved Now button and sign up. We'd love to talk to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mike, for everything you do for the airports. Richard McSpadden, thank you for flying in that beautiful extra 300.
Work, work, work.
Yeah, exactly. Tough job. So last year was a terrific year for safety in general aviation. How is 2022 going, and what kind of initiatives do you have for this year?
Yeah, first I want to thank everybody here for the year that we had in fiscal year 2021, because, Colin, to your point, it was the safest year we've ever had in general aviation by a long shot, if you measure it by fatal accident rate, which is our primary indicator. And we were some 25% safer year over year and better than the best year we've ever had in fiscal year 2021. We had a phenomenal year, and all that does is reflect on the way that you are flying your airplanes, maintaining your airplanes, keeping your knowledge safe, and then establishing that whole cultural piece of engaging with people and having the conversations that make it safer. And it's part of a trend that we've had for the last 25 or 30 years. We've driven our fatal accident rate down by some 50%. And we think the way you do that is through 5 principles. If you take knowledgeable pilots, train them well, keep them proficient, put them in reliable equipment, and surround them with a culture that helps good decision making, you'll run safe operations. And so at ASI, we can go to the next slide, please. That's what we try to do. We try to hit on all 5 of those principles. And we also have a guiding principle that wherever, whenever, however you consume information, we want to be there with compelling safety information. We work really hard at making it engaging, sometimes entertaining, even though it's a serious subject. And you can see the reach that we've had. Our material is accessed some 12 million times a year, which makes AOPA the leading voice in general aviation safety and, frankly, the most influential voice. And so we need to keep that going strong. And to do that, we have several different channels that we use. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We're having a lot of fun experimenting on TikTok. So believe it or not.
Were you doing dances on TikTok?
What?
Dances on TikTok?
I thought you were going to help us with that, with the dance.
Later.
Everybody that wants to see Colin dance on TikTok,
yeah, right.
please.
Not me.
Okay, all right. So, so find us there. We started a new series we call Early Analysis because we realized right after a conspicuous accident, there's a tremendous amount of pilot interest in what we know about it and what we can learn from it. So we try to do that very carefully, very respectfully. This is what we know from ADS-B data or tower communications or whatever, and this is what we can learn, and then we try to really be careful not to step on the toes of the investigation and what they'll find. We launched a new focus this year of VFR and IMC, and that came from the fact that just being frustrated that still we have 18 fatalities a year of pilots flying VFR and IMC, despite the fact that we've got better equipment in our airplanes, better weather than we've ever had before, and 1/3 of those pilots are IFR-rated pilots. So if you're not proficient in your airplane and in the equipment in your airplane, regardless of whether or not you're IFR-rated or not, stumbling into IMC conditions is a bad idea. So we put out podcasts on it. Our podcast is called There I Was. It's on iTunes or Spotify. It's free, like all of our stuff, thanks to donors to the foundation. You can find it there. We've written a couple what went wrong columns on VFR and IMC, and we'll probably have one more. And we also did one of our accident case studies, which is on YouTube. Again, the Air Safety Institute YouTube channel, free to anyone. So join us there. Thanks for consuming the information. Thanks for what you do for making GA safe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. So Elizabeth, wow, you've got a big job. You've got a lot going on all the time. the foundation and You Can Fly. Would love to hear an update and understand you have a special announcement.
Yes, we do have a special announcement, but I'm going to drag it out just a little bit and tell you about the programs first. So a few years back, actually about 6 or 7 years now, Mark and some others recognized that we were going to have to take some pretty significant action if we were going to stop the number of pilots in this country from continuing to fall. We saw a steady decline pretty much from about 1980 until about 2017, and that number was just headed down. And without pilots to fly, we don't have influence in Congress, we don't have access to airports, we don't have all the things that make our freedom to fly possible. So we looked at how we could reach out to people wherever they were in their aviation journey. And that starts when they're young and they don't even know maybe that aviation is an option. So we built a high school program to introduce young people to aviation careers and opportunities. And then flight training. 70 to 80% of people who start flight training have historically dropped out without earning a certificate. That's completely unsustainable. So how do we improve that experience so that people will stay and actually earn a certificate and get the chance to fly? And then flying clubs, you know, it's not always easy or right for an individual to buy an airplane. It's pretty hard to rent an airplane in many communities. So how do you get access to aircraft and keep flying after you've earned your certificate? So we wanted to tackle that. And then last but definitely not least, rusty pilots. How do you get back in the air after you've had a long break? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about each of those. So our high school program. In this past year, we had more than 300 schools in 44 states participate. This is a 4-year aviation STEM curriculum, so these are serious classes. Kids take these classes for credit. We had more than 12,500 kids take the class, and we are able to deliver it to the schools completely free. So thanks to all of you for that. And we've got kids all over the country. Here's a great map, kind of gives you an idea. The yellow dots are the ones who were using it the prior year. The gray dots are the ones that were added. And we had a 100% renewal rate last year. So every single school that used it in 21 came back to use it again in 22. And we are very, very proud of that. Rusty pilots. Anybody ever taken a break from flying? Yeah? A few of you? I think a few of you maybe not admitting it. But most people in their life, if you're not flying for a living, life kind of sneaks up on you and gets in the way. Kids, job, a lot of responsibilities, money, all those things play into whether or not we fly, and a whole lot of us take a break from flying. We wanted to make it easier to get back into flying, and that's why we created the Rusty Pilots program. So there's an online course, there are in-person seminars, we do regular webinars, and we're going to take you through scenarios that are going to help you refresh your memory of all the core things you need for your flight review. Join us once, twice, 10 times. It's free to you as a member. And thanks to that program, we've got more than 10,000 pilots back in the air to active flying status. So congratulations to all of you who got back after an absence. On the flight training side, you know, flight training in many cases is really a lot like it was coming out of World War II. We're going to put you in a plane, we're going to tell you to do things, we're going to expect you to do it right the first time, and if you don't get it right the first time, we might yell at you. And turns out this doesn't work that well for today's pilots. It's not that effective for a lot of people. So we wanted to look at modernizing the system. How do we make it better? And we developed the AOPA Flight Training Advantage. It is an app for the iPad, and it also has web portals for you that you can use on any device. And what it does is it takes all the logical elements that have to go into flight training. It distills them down. It allows the instructor to grade your performance on any given lesson in the cockpit. And then the app itself designs the next lesson for you. And it responds to your performance. So after 4 or 5 lessons, you know, we all start on day 1 in the same place, but after 4 or 5 lessons, every single one of us might be doing something different because it responds to what we're good at, what we're struggling with, what we need to do more of. And it takes into account adult learning theory. It takes into account things like cognitive load so that you don't get overwhelmed, because we know that the cockpit is not the best learning environment. It's loud, it's bumpy, it's unpredictable. So we take all those things into account, and then the next lesson is delivered to you. It's delivered to your flight instructor, and so is all the material you need to prep. So when you show up for your next lesson, you're ready to fly, and your instructor is also ready to fly. You will never again hear, "What do you want to do today?" That was my least favorite question during training, so let's banish that. So if anybody is interested in learning more about this, because it's very capable, it's a really cool tool, and if you want to, get with it and push the buttons, go to the You Can Fly tent right out front here. They've got a little shade structure, and they will demo this for you, and you can check it out.
Yeah, I wish I would have had that available to me when I learned to fly. And we've had some student pilots at AOPA who've been using that.
We have some student pilots who've earned their certificates. In fact, our own Eric Blinderman, who heads our communications department, learned to fly that way. So we know it works, we've seen it in action, and we'd love for you to check it out and join more than 1,000 schools and flight instructors now who are taking advantage of it and using it. And then, of course, let's talk about flying clubs. What a great way to build your own community. What a great way to get together with other pilots, share the pleasures of ownership, but also share the costs, and have access to an airplane and be able to fly when and where you want to. So in the past year, we've helped start 22 new clubs, and that has pushed us up over the 200 club number. And speaking of the 200th club, I'd like to bring up Steve Bateman, who is the director of our Flying Clubs Initiative.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. So my name's Steve Bateman. I'm the director of the Flying Clubs Group. It's my colleague, Drew. We work together. We work with a lot of you, probably talk to a lot of you about flying clubs as well. And we love flying clubs, don't we, Drew? That's what we do, and that's what we love to do. How many people in flying clubs? Thank you very much. How many flying clubs that are 30 years old or more? Thank you very much. Probably spoken with a lot of you, because 30 years is that, we need to think about changing something time. So probably spoken. How about sort of, say, 20 years? All right, 10 in the last 10 years? Well, we're pleased to actually say that we've got a club here today that's about a couple of months old. So we're going to be talking about them in a minute. By the way, if you are in a flying club, do come along to our Flying Clubs social event right here, Friday, 6 o'clock. For flying clubs, and you will need to get a ticket from one of us, and we'll be very happy to talk to you about it. There is the ticket. Thank you, Drew. With that in mind, what I'd like to do is bring up and recognize our 200th flying club formed, the Lake Shelbyville Flying Club, based out of Shelby County in Illinois. Come on up, boys. So here we have Scott, who's the airport manager, and we'll talk to him in a minute. We have Paul, who's the secretary of the club. Al is a member, and this is a fantastic club. And what's really fun about this club is there's a sort of three-part story to it. It's a wonderful story about an aeroplane, about an airport manager passionate about getting activities running in his airport, and a group of local pilots who really wanted to pull it all together to do that. So Scott, tell us about your idea, your vision here, how it all started.
Well, it really started by several of the what we call rusty pilots, I guess, showing up at my airport wanting to rent an airplane or, check into buying an airplane. And most all of them had the same idea. Boy, if there was a club here, we'd really get something going. So I've been airport manager for 11 years now, something like that. So about the third year in there, it finally stuck in my brain that, yo, dummy, you're the only thing that's in common with all these guys. So I started writing everybody's names down. When I started writing everybody's names down, then finally I found one or two of them, and I said, hey, I'm only one guy. I can only do so much by myself. Would you be willing to take all these other names, give them a call, let's all meet together and see what we come up with? Well, that led to the first meeting that we had, probably, 6 months ago? January 21st, there you go. Okay, and from that, the first thing we decided to do was call Steve. So then we had our second meeting, and Steve was there via the iPad and whatnot. And from there on, we just kind of rocked and rolled and followed your advice, and things just fell into place. I've got 2 retired guys that were really wanting to get back into aviation. They're the ones with all the extra time. They can make all the phone calls during business hours that all the rest of us at work can't. So they were a tremendous help. Unfortunately, they could not make it up here. We do have our treasure that is supposed to be coming in at any time. Our airplane just landed as we began this show here today. Nice. So hopefully we'll be able to see that before the day's over.
Great. Thank you, Scott. You know, flying clubs are made of 3 components. There's obviously the people, the members, there's the aeroplanes, and then there's the procedural side of it. We can help a lot with that. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of expertise in helping over 200 flying clubs with this. But, you know, the people side of it is important as well. So, Paul, tell us about the idea of the club coming together and how we all work together to make it happen.
Yeah, so we had no idea where to start with the legal side of things. That's where Steve came in great. He guided us through everything we needed to know as far as, you know, what forms we needed to fill out, what route we needed to go. He had a template for how we needed to start the club. Once he got us all that, I mean, you know, the 2 guys that were working, they ran through everything fast. We met with him on February 11th on the iPad, and we had our first flight in the airplane on May 7th. So we was able to get everything rolled through, and we're actually leasing the plane right now, and we're up to 10 members.
Great, thank you. So talking about the plane, there's always that component. You can have interested people. You've got the support of the airport manager. Then it's a case of finding an airplane, and it's not easy to find an airplane right now. They're in short supply, and they're expensive. So this is where the plane story comes in. So we've heard about the members. We've heard about the airport. Let's hear about the airplane.
Well, the airplane that we acquired came from an estate sale from an airport about 30 miles north of us. It hadn't flown since 2009. I first went to look at the airplane. It was in one of these hangars that the landing gear of the airplane are on concrete. Everything else is gravel. So moisture was a big issue. The entire airplane was full of mold. So went up there, worked on it, I don't know, 3-4 days. Finally got it to where I felt safe transporting it and flying it home, which was a whole nother lesson learned. How many have always heard that you can't fly with frost on your wing? Well, let me add to that. You can't fly with mold on your wing either. I didn't have water there to wash it off, so I took towels, wiped it all off. To the naked eye, it looked great. It felt smooth, you know, rough paint, but it felt smooth. Pour the coals to the old girl, take off, 200 foot a minute climb. Very interesting flight home, but I made it. Then after going through the airplane for about 6 weeks and making it mechanically sound and washing it, of course, well, I then took the airplane back out 600 foot a minute climb. Wow, that's kind of more what it's supposed to be doing all the time. So when we got that done, then the gentleman that actually owns the airplane is one of our club members, and he wasn't able to make it this trip either. But his first thing was, well, I don't like all these old round dials. I want that new flat glass. So the first place the airplane went was to get a dynon put in it. So we have an entire dynon system in the airplane, which cleaned up the outside too. We got rid of the vacuum venturis and all that fun stuff. And he's like, well, now the inside looks really good, but this outside's still a shabby paint job. So next thing we know, we're stripping the airplane down. There were 3 coats of paint on the airplane. That probably didn't help with the climb rate either. So we got it all the way down to bare aluminum. The last coat we found was what we think is the factory job, paint job. Our airplane is serial number 232, so it looks an awful lot like that polished 172 out there that is serial number 1, except for we chose to paint it white instead of having a polished airplane. Those of you who have a polished airplane understand, especially in a club environment, the white paint's much easier to take care of. So now we've got the airplane up, rescued, and flying.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. So that's the story. We have an airport now that has activities. We have a club that's using an airplane, and we saved an airplane. This is a really, really great story. So congratulations, guys, on being the 200th Flying Club. Thank you very much. I'd like to give you this, Paul, to share with the club. We also would like to thank some donors, Aircraft Spruce, who donated a absolutely amazingly comprehensive aircraft cleaning kit. So this gorgeous airplane you can see here will stay shiny forever. Also for Lightspeed, for a Zulu 3 and a Survival, and of course the AOPA Foundation, all of the donors for helping us do our work here. Congratulations. Thanks very much for coming.
Well, congratulations. I just want to take a moment to say, at the beginning, Colin noted that I work with both the foundation and You Can Fly. So all of the programs that you've heard about today, from Richard, from myself, from Steve, all of these are funded entirely through donations. This is not your member dues. We can only stretch those so far, and they are very, very important for our advocacy work. So those of you who donate, who give above and beyond your membership dues, you're the ones who are making all of this possible, and thank you. We are very grateful to all of you. If you take a look on your tables there, you will see that there are some yellow cards with a QR code. Right now, we are fortunate to have a dollar-for-dollar match from the Ray Foundation up to $2.5 million. So anybody who donates any contribution of any size between now and December 31st, you'll have the chance to double your impact, and that lets us do twice as much with all of these great programs. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I get to have a little fun and make a little announcement of my own. Before I dig into that, though, I did want to let you know, some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm also the editor-in-chief of Pilot Magazine and Flight Training Magazine. And that occurred when Tom Haynes retired earlier this year. And Tom is in the room. I just wanted to thank Tom for all of his 34 years of service at AOPA. Thank you, Tom. So I'm responsible for all of the media and marketing at AOPA. That, of course, includes AOPA Pilot Magazine and the newsletters and social media and podcasts and video, and we're ramping all that up. We have a terrific team. I know what you like and what you don't like because you all are very, you love to reach out to us and tell us what you like and what you don't like. So I love that. I love all the emails and the calls and the passion from the members and you asking for more information on such as the 100 low lead issue or asking to see certain types of airplanes. So I would encourage you to bring it on. Let us know what you want to hear. Our job is to inform and educate and let you know what's going on at AOPA, but also around all of general aviation. I also want to point out that we're back to having fly-ins and gatherings outside of Sun and Fun and AirVenture. We have the Hangout fly-in. It used to be just called an AOPA fly-in, but the Hangout, it's a little bit more. Thank you, Steve. Something that's a little bit more casual coming up later this year, first in Spokane, Washington, September 9th and 10th, and there'll be an element of more community gathering, cookouts, camping, and really looking forward to that in Spokane and in Tampa, Florida, November 4th and 5th. I invite all of you, invite your friends. We would love to see you at one of these two Hangouts. And just after that, back at Fort Worth Alliance Airport, we have another aviator showcase, and that's an opportunity to look at some great new aircraft and also products and services that support ownership. So that is in Fort Worth, November 17th and 18th. So if you're in that area, we would love to see you. So some of you may have heard the news that we have a new sweepstakes airplane. It is the 2023 AOPA Sweepstakes 170B. It is a tailwheel aircraft classic. It was made in 1953, and many of you have already asked us. It's sitting over there on the other side of the tent. I invite you to see it just after we finish here. Many have asked what we are going to do with the aircraft. We're not just going to restore it to stock. We're definitely changing it. And by the way, the owner, the person who owned this airplane for 49 years, Bob Booty, it was actually on the other side of Oshkosh Airport. This airplane was at Oshkosh for 49 years before we got our hands on it. But he came by and he asked what we were doing with it. Well, I said the first thing that we were going to do is take out the 145 horsepower engine and put in at least 180 horsepower. And we're going to put on even bigger tires that's on it now, a really nice digital VFR panel, lightweight interior with rubber floor mats and something that you can go in the backcountry and not worry about getting dirty. And it'll have some sort of a dramatic backcountry paint scheme. Don't know what that's going to be yet. For the Tiger Sweepstakes, we did ask all of you on social media. We gave you 3 different options, and I love that everybody weighed in and told us what they liked the most. And by the way, the one that you liked the most happened to turn out to be the one that is on the airplane right now. So I can't wait. Take a look at the airplane. It'll be back here next year, and you won't even recognize it. And then in December of 2023, the sweepstakes will end, and we will pull a name out of the proverbial hat, and probably in January of 2024, we will announce that airplane. And speaking, so one more last word about the Tiger that I just mentioned. It used to be our Tiger, but it's not our Tiger anymore. We've got a video we'd like to play here.
Hey everyone, Nikki here, and I am super excited because I'm packing up to head to Petaluma to surprise the AOPA Sweeps Tiger winner. He thinks I'm coming up to interview him about backcountry flying, but he couldn't be more wrong.
Oh! Hey! What's your name? I'm Alex Brown. Nice to meet you. Alex Brown? Yeah. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Whoa! 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 Wow! I'm like blown away. Are you retrieve them? I guess so. Oh wow! Thank you. I can't believe it. Whoa! I'm like in shock. Well, congratulations. What? Thank you. Yeah. Whoa! You're the winner. I can't believe it. This is like the first thing I've actually won. I just won a plane. You won a plane? Yeah, I won a plane. The AOPA Sweepstakes. The giveaway of the Grumman Tiger. Question is, can I have another plane? Okay, great. That's all I need to know.
Welcome, Alex. And there's our new future pilot right there, right? Both of them. Well, here it is. The key to your airplane and the logbooks. It's official. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm definitely still speechless, but I can't wait to actually lay eyes on it because I haven't seen it in person yet, so I can't wait to check it out.
So he hasn't actually seen it yet, so we're going to take him over here right after the question and answer period, and you can jump in your new airplane with the family. We can't quite leave until Sunday, though. We won't let you do that. It'll be a long couple of days. So one more round of applause and congratulations for every member. Celebrate that.
Congratulations. All right, so we'll, yeah, so
Hey
go ahead and take a
everyone.
seat. Or unless you're done, okay. So we'll head over there, and just after this session is done, we're going to walk Alex and family over. They're going to take a very first look. We invite all of you to see his reaction as well. It's a spectacular airplane. You know, we definitely want to thank Garmin for the avionics and AirPower for donating the Lycoming engine, and it's a great paint scheme from Scheme Designers, and Lancaster Aero, I think everybody agrees, did a great job, and there's so many other contributors. I can't thank them all, but we could never have a sweepstakes airplane without all the help from contributors and partners. So thanks everyone. So now we're going to go to questions, the time that many of you most look forward to. Open questions, anybody? We would ask for, just give us your name, and there we go. No, Eric will hold the mic. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Ken Dwight from Houston, and been an AOPA member for 50 plus years. I've got the pen. 2 questions. First for Mark. I went ahead and went to Basic Med last time around because I don't fly commercially and all that. And a couple of years into it, I think we all kind of learned the hard way that Basic Med didn't let me fly as a safety pilot. And I know AOPA has recognized that, and I wonder what the status of that is.
Yeah, both Mike and I can talk a little about that, but the language was just frankly missed in there from a safety pilot. It is in legislation right now to get those words changed. One way or another, we're going to get it done through rulemaking, where the FAA agrees, by the way. This was just a miss of the intent of what was basic med for from a safety pilot perspective. So a little bit of patience, but that is going to go away.
Let me get him, and then I'll get you. Tell us where you're from.
Hi, Mike Graham, currently from Mesa, Arizona. I joined AOPA in the early 60s or so. Actually, the late 60s, now that I think about it. You touched on safety. I think it was 17 fatalities per year, was it?
You're talking VFR and IMC?
Talking GA mishaps, not 135, but 91 operations. What did you quote, 91, or correction, 17 fatalities?
No, sir. We still have about 200 fatal accidents a year in GA. It's down by more than half since about 30 years ago. We're still in good progress, but we still got a long way to go.
Okay, so it turns out to be about 17 a month then is what we have in fatal accidents. I think that's what you said.
I was referring to VFR and IMC accidents, and we have about 18 a year of those, which is about 1.5 a month.
Okay, fair enough. That's what I wanted to clarify. We need to do more and quit killing ourselves out there in all areas of GA. I'm a flight safety investigator years ago, and I'd like to just get it on the record that we at AOPA and all of us have to do a better job of not taking our own lives with basic flying. Thank you.
I agree with you, sir. We haven't taken our foot off the accelerator. You know, when we first founded 80-something years ago, it was about protect GA, grow it, and keep it safe. It's still one of the principles we work after every day. We've seen good progress, but I share your feeling that we still have a long way to go.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Devine. I'm an AOPA member since I was 13, 23 now, out of McLeod, California. The fight for Reed Hillview is huge for me because I've grown up around that airport. It's a very sentimental airport to me. Long story short, have you approached the Office of Emergency Management in California? Because in 1989, that airport was used for the earthquake disaster and was used as an emergency relief field. If you approach it as this is an emergency relief opportunity, if we have another big quake in California, because if you remember, I wasn't alive back then, but San Jose was crumbled. The only airport available to bring in resources was Reed Hillview.
The answer is yes. We've approached the effort to save Reed Hillview from every possible angle. In fact, we may even have a national level fix to what you're talking about because everybody knows that GA lends a very charitable hand in all time of disaster, hurricanes, fires, in this case the earthquake, the La Prieta earthquake I think it was. Yeah, and Reed Hillview was on the front pages because of how great it was as a community service and the GA pilots that donated their time and aircraft to do it. It didn't take long for that good news to come off the front page and bring back the drumbeat, which is being drummed by the county commission, to close the airport. They want low-income housing. So that's the messaging I was talking about. We're going to keep the pro-airport messaging going. We're going to try every angle, but we've been all over it. So thanks for that. And that's, you know, anytime you get a chance to be quoted in the newspaper, say something good about that part of the airport. As a quick aside, when the fires were happening a year and a half ago, the county realized how positive that was with all these helicopters flying out for the fires around San Jose. And they actually got the helicopters moved to another location because it was too good of news. It was incredible. This is local politics. I've been seeing it too much and I hate it.
Hi there, Ryan Austin, Wichita, Kansas, currently in school at Oklahoma State University. Just wondering what AOP is doing in regards to keeping young people involved in GA. I myself am pursuing a commercial career, but I love GA, staying involved with it. Obviously, I've got 10 other people from Oklahoma State here. We all love it, but you know, I see a lot of times now with more people going through 141, just going straight for their commercial careers, kind of overlooking a lot of what AOPA is doing and what general aviation is up to. So what kind of endeavors is AOPA going? Just, I know scholarships obviously, but also just keeping young pilots involved.
Yeah, we definitely want to have more young people like you be part of AOPA and see that this is your home even after you go on to commercial careers. So we're starting that with the high school program. It's a great way to introduce young people to opportunities in aviation, and they learn all about GA alongside learning all about the careers. We encourage them to become members. There's a free membership for people who are 13 to 17, and they get all the great benefits. They can read Flight Training Magazine, they can talk to CFIs, they can call our Pilot Information Center, and so we want them to know that we're here for them, and we really are. And then we also want to keep them involved. GA is a great activity for commercial pilots, and we actually have a course coming out very soon for commercial pilots who may have stepped away from GA to get them familiar. It's sort of the rusty pilots for them. We call it Back to Your Roots. So getting those young pilots back into the fold, keeping them engaged and encouraging them to pass it along to other young pilots is one of the things that's really important to us. And just very quickly, you mentioned scholarships. So we give away over $1 million in scholarships every year to high school students and teachers, because teachers motivate those kids to get out and fly. And when they can share their personal experiences, it helps those kids see that the opportunity is there. If my teacher can do it, I probably can too, right? And then all those kids, all those young high school kids who are learning to fly as well. We also have flying clubs aimed at young people and at the high school age. So we're taking lots of steps, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and there's a vibrant social scene on social media, obviously. And so we're wanting to encourage AOPA members to be talking to each other and talking about their flying experiences. We have more and more young pilots who are contributing to that content in the magazine, online, with video. Case in point, the Cessna 170B that flew up here. It was one of our newer employees who recruited the mechanic to go do a pre-buy, the ferry pilot who flew it from one location to another, the mechanic that did the annual, and the pilot, 700-hour Cessna 170B pilot that checked Kayla McLeod out, were all under the age of 25. So far, everybody who has had their hands on the AOPA Sweepstakes Airplane has been young and is the next generation of leadership in aviation if they want to be. Next
Thank
question.
you for taking questions. Don Thompson, Long Beach, California. Have you guys got any feedback about the problems we're having with some of the tower ATC controls in our area? Closing the airport to VFR traffic, stopping
Which
pattern
airport is it?
work.
Which airport?
Long Beach.
Long Beach. Murray, do you want to take that one? I'm not familiar with that, but I know that, Murray, do you want to take it? Or we have our air traffic person in the tent. We can probably take that one after the Q&A. I'd love to follow up with you. If it's an issue we're not aware of, we want to jump into it.
Eric, next question is going to be the last question.
Okay, and who has that?
Yep. Keith Young with the Massachusetts Air and Space Museum, and you were talking about scholarships for young people, but have you considered scholarships for people who are interested in second career getting into aviation?
I am so glad that you asked that. So, not only do we offer scholarships for teachers who might want to get into aviation, now we hope many of them will stay in the classroom and share the joy, but some of them do go on to second careers, but we also offer scholarships for people of all ages, primary certificates as well as advanced ratings. We also have some for mechanics, so we've got a wide range of scholarships for people of all ages and all interests, and please do apply. Those are going to open on September 5th of this year, so go to the website, look up scholarships, and apply there.
All right, well, thank you all for coming to the AOPA Pilot Town Hall. I hope you learned some new things today. All of you who are AOPA members, thank you so much for being members, and I know many of you are longtime members. We appreciate that. If you're not an AOPA member, please consider joining. Your annual dues and the donations enable us to do all this great work that we're talking about and protect your freedom to fly. Have a terrific AirVenture.